We're at the California Association of Realtors convention. Why don't you share with me some of the ahas, some of the eyebrow raising and light bulbs that you got from your time up there?
Well, primary purpose of this meeting was the legislative day.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't had a chance to go up there, I encourage you to do it next year. It's an annual event.
Just in case someone's brand new to real estate, Ledge Day or Legislative Day is?
It is the day that realtors descend upon Sacramento.
It's a good way to describe it.
Meet with the legislators, and we become a team of about 2,000 plus advocating for legislation that's going to benefit not just realtors but also home buyers in the transaction. And this year we had a record turnout.
Nice.
Governor Brown spoke and acknowledged that this was a group that he couldn't say no to.
Even though sometimes he wants to?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said that, not me, by the way. The views that were just expressed are Keith Robinson, not Tricia Thomas, nor Better Homes and Gardens, Mason-McDuffie, or any of its affiliates. Yeah.
But we had a very good turnout, incredibly successful. That was one of the primary reasons. The other is that we take a look at policy issues.
Mm-hmm.
We take a look at, I like the way Kathy phrased it, what's trending.
Yeah.
And whether or not we need to have some sort of a response at the state level and the local level. And we had a great presentation from Joel Singer, who's the CEO of the California Association.
So to break that down, Ledge Day or Legislative Day, we do, California Association of Realtors has one of their meetings every year in Sacramento, right?
Yep, it's usually the May meetings.
And that's our opportunity as a group to go and have our voice be heard in Sacramento and just let the policymakers and decision makers around policy hear what's important to us when it comes to matters that affect residential real estate.
I could not have said it better.
Good. Well, I'm just repeating what you said. So you did say it better. So next year, you missed it for this year, but next year, if you can, make the time. It's worth the trip. I've been many times before. I didn't make it this year, but I have a 14-month-old, so everything's hard right now. But definitely worth it. It's interesting to see 2,000 plus real estate professionals all gathered in the same place at the same time.
It's intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a legislator, it's
yeah.
intimidating.
There definitely is a voice there. And there's usually some pretty fun get-togethers throughout the day and evening as well, because there's 2,000 plus real estate professionals getting together. So good. You mentioned Joel Singer had some interesting information to share.
He did. Joel has a background in economy. Mm-hmm. So not only is he the CEO of the State Association, but he has a nationwide reputation as being one of the leading real estate economists.
Yeah.
And he talked about the market, and there was good news, and there was some, I won't say bad news, but there are some red flags, warning signs.
Pay attention to.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Joel Singer is and I think I'm getting this right, he is the CEO of the California Association of Realtors.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what did he have to tell us? He said that we have a recovering market. Mm-hmm. Economy is doing much better. Job growth in California is at the 2005 levels, and in fact, construction is posting some of the highest gains in new job growth.
There was, I think Friday, or Thursday or Friday last week, there were some new numbers that came out around jobs that were a lot better than what was expected.
It's much healthier. Mm-hmm. Home sales hit bottom in 2010, and they've been, I was going to say steadily increasing,
mm-hmm.
but prices have been more than steadily increasing since then. Percentage of equity sales is at its highest level in the last 5 years, and then the share of short sales and REOs is at the lowest level. And the other good news was that California started building again.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in 2012, they built 22% more units than the previous year.
Hammers are swinging.
It's good news for the home buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably going to be a couple of years before those new units hit the resale market.
Right.
So for our members, it's going to take a while for it for the inventory to increase. But still, it's a good positive sign.
Now, you may not know the answer to this since you are saying what you heard from him, but
mm-hmm.
historically, and if you don't, it's totally okay. I'll dig in and find out for the audience. But historically, Northern California has a lot slower new home growth than Southern California because of restrictions around building and some other stuff. Did he bifurcate that at all?
No, he didn't.
We
had it for the nation. We had it for the state of California.
No problem.
But the presentation, if you have any interest, the slides will be up on the car.org website.
Okay.
There's a section called Speeches and Presentations. I checked this morning. It wasn't up yet.
Okay.
But there's a lot of good information in having conversations with your clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to be that informed realtor, then be sure to go online, check it out. I'm just going to give you sort of a
high overview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A taste of it.
We'll keep our eyes open for that, and for all of you that are on the show, we'll send it out to you as soon as it hits the site. We'll push that out to you guys.
Mortgage rates at a 50-year low. House payments are half what they were. And at their peak in 2007. So 2007, the average monthly mortgage payment was $3,668 a month. Today, it's $1,818 a month. So consequently, housing affordability is also increasing in the state of California.
I wish mine was $1,800 a month. I wish I was part of that statistic. Dang it.
And we seem to be a bit of an anomaly in the Bay Area.
Yeah. Well, we do have a higher average sales price than most of the rest of the state. So
demand is going to remain high. In fact, he referenced a Pew Research Center survey that says 8 in 10 renters still want to buy a home. And in fact, 8 out of 10 people surveyed feel that buying a home is still one of the best investments you can make. So, consumer confidence in owning a home is still at a high.
It's interesting, too, because as we went through this most recent downturn, which was relatively historic, right? Hindsight will tell us how historic it really was or wasn't. But one of the things that I was worried about or had wanted to pay attention to is, because it would be the first time in a generation people had actually lost on the bet of owning a home, right? Where historically that was the one investment they may have gotten right, was buying their home. And for the first time in a generation, there was a situation where someone chose to invest in a home and lost on that choice. And I was just wanted to pay attention to consumer confidence around home ownership. And it really does seem, as you have said and as Joel referenced, seem to have very little impact in the sort of the dream of owning a home. That seems to be really strong still. Is that your experience?
It is, and again, it's cyclical.
Yeah.
And I like the way you phrased it. It's the first time in a generation of home buyers. So for many people, they haven't experienced it. I remember purchasing my first home and got in the market, and within 3 months, I think I bought 2 months before the last crash.
Right.
And my townhome lost something like 30% of its value, and I was scared to death.
Right.
And my very, very competent realtor said, "It's okay, hang in there. It will come back."
Right.
And it did come back. It was a great investment. So but I was that first generation buyer experiencing it. He'd been in the business 30 years. He said, it's
things
okay.
Come and go.
It is cyclical. We just don't have the crystal ball to know how many years in that cycle before it comes back. But good news is everything is pointing to the fact that it is back.
Good.
There are some threats, though, to the sustainability of the recovery.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, one of them is public policy. And, we beat the drum constantly about why realtors should care about what's going on in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., but particularly Washington, D.C. with the deficit reduction, mortgage interest deductibility. Every year we hear it's going to be under attack, and the sense I got from the lobbyists in D.C. and Sacramento is it's not going to go away completely, but don't breathe that sigh of relief yet, because there's a very good chance that it will be attacked either to maybe limit it to
high
maybe
income.
Or first-time home buyers.
Right.
Limit it, change the nature of it. Maybe it's a tax credit. It's not a deduction. Limit the amount that someone can deduct. So I think you're going to see a lot of continued attacks on MID, and that is going to significantly affect California.
So just to frame it up, just in case there are people who aren't as familiar, the mortgage interest deduction, which is a way that really it's an IRS code, right, that incents people to, there's a big tax benefit to owning a home.
It makes that purchase more affordable.
And they do that because buying a home is a big driver of economy, because when you buy a home, you buy new furniture, you buy paint, you buy carpet, you buy fixtures. That homeownership purchase decision leads to a lot of other transactions.
And in fact, if you want more information on that, if you go to the car.org website, they have a video on the homepage, and there's a new video they just posted called The Ripple Effect.
Oh, okay, cool.
And that talks about what you're referencing.
We'll track that down and send it to everybody as well. So it has happened before. This seems to be cyclical as well. When the government seems to get in trouble, that's such a large pool of money. That's one that gets a lot of attention. Now, historically, it's kind of been a political third rail where no one has really had the intestinal fortitude. I was going to use a less politically correct way to say that. No one's really had the intestinal fortitude to go at it. That seems to be waning. There seems to be more discussion around it than at any time that I remember, at least in my 15 years being around residential real estate.
Well, we're fortunate in that National Association of Realtors is considered one of the strongest lobbying organizations. They're very active, not just at the national level, but at the state level as well. And I think it's credit to them and the strength and unity of the realtor family that we've been able to fight this year after year. But you're right. It's like pushing that snowball back up the hill.
Right.
And it gets harder and harder.
Yeah.
So the stakes get higher and higher for our industry.
And now I'm back into Keith's opinion land. I love having guests like Tricia because we can sort of extrapolate and give our thoughts and opinions. But I do think where you'll see the threat will be high income because it's very easy politically to paint a story about, if you're buying a home for $750,000 on a national scope. If you're buying a home for $750,000, you're the 1%er, you are wildly affluent. There are some of our markets where $750,000 is a starter home.
That's right.
And but that's an easy story to tell politically that can resonate with some ease throughout the country because there are many cities that there isn't a single home for sale that's over $750,000. So just pay attention to that. You need to be aware of what's going on in our industry and be involved, which is really part of what
That's what Legislative Day was about. And then, in fact, I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. next week.
You carrying a picket sign or anything?
I've done it. Happy to do it again.
Good.
The National Association of Realtors does the same thing in Washington, D.C. And have several thousand realtors coming from throughout the country. And we hear from the regulators. We hear from the legislators. The leadership of Bay East Association will be up there meeting with our representatives and senators and carrying the message forward too. So it's something we never, ever let up on. We never take for granted that we're going to be able to keep and preserve the MID.
Yeah, it's important. It's really important. Good. Any other ahas from Joel?
Yeah. The other threats to the industry is if you've been around for a while, you've heard the term disintermediation.
Oh, yes. That's a good one. What does that even mean?
The D word.
Yeah, the dreaded D word.
Yeah. And what it means in a nutshell is that other industries will come in and replace the realtor in transactions, as they've done in other industries. For example, travel industry. Who would book a vacation without calling their travel agent 20 years ago?
Right.
Who calls a travel agent today? It's not the first thing on your mind.
Right.
So
you go to TripAdvisor, you go to some other thing, usually a technology or web-based presence, which has gotten in the way and disrupted the normal business cycle.
And that is called decision support technology, and it's growing in our industry. And not just our industry, other industries. So take a look at TurboTax, displacing tax advisors. There's medical software, MD software, that in some cases is found to be as accurate as, if not better, than doctors in diagnosing medical conditions.
Whatever you do, don't go to Dr. Google. Like, if you aren't feeling good, do not put your symptoms into Google, because you will be worried that you are going to die. Like that, do not go to Dr. Google. Dr. Google scares me every time.
Well, we hope there's not a Dr. Realtor out there sometime, because I think that the end result could be as bad. Who wants to go through a transaction as their own advisor? But technology, decision support technology, is out there and it's growing, and that is one of the potential threats. The other is low inventory.
Yeah.
So even though inventory should be increasing, it's not necessarily increasing. So something's going on out there, and that leads to the threat that we're seeing more and more, and it's not just in our area, it's throughout the country when I talk to my peers, but that is fewer and fewer agents putting listings into the multiple listing service. And we call those pocket listings.
Yeah.
And there are risks associated with that.
Sure.
So recent statistics, we took a look at our MLSs surrounding us to see what was going on. There has been a jump in every single MLS.
A jump of pocket listings?
Of the number of pocket listings. In our area, it's something like 8.9% in Alameda County.
Wow.
8.4% of the listings are not hitting the MLS, and that represents a total volume in sales of $760 million that's being withheld from the MLS.
Just in Alameda County.
That's Alameda County. Now, if you take a look at MLS listings, MLS area, which is Monterey up to and through San Mateo, it's at 15%.
Wow.
And that represents $3.4 billion in sales volume being withheld from the MLS.
Now, does that mean they're never hitting the MLS, or I've seen properties will come on the MLS and then they're marked as sold,
Right, within 24 hours.
Right.
How does that happen?
Yeah, well, they were already sold.
Yeah.
Or they were never
Exactly.
actually on the MLS.
No, these are never hitting the multiple listing service. And then in Contra Costa County, it is 29.4%. 29.4% of listings that are not hitting the multiple listing service. And that's raising some concern in terms of whether or not agents are fully representing their clients. Are they fulfilling their fiduciary responsibility to a seller to get the highest and best offer? Is the seller even aware of or advised of the consequences of having that listing being withheld from the marketplace? So a couple of things happened in Sacramento at the CAR meeting on Saturday. CAR is going to request a rules change approval from the National Association of Realtors for multiple listing service, which is going to clarify and strengthen the mandatory submission requirement for listings. So within 2 days, listings need to be submitted to the multiple listing service unless the seller has expressly requested that the agent withhold that listing. There is going to be a request for a new requirement that the seller be advised by the agent of the consequences of what that withholding the listing represents. And so let me read you some of the language. The new advisory to the seller, which the agent or the broker is going to have to make, is the seller will have to acknowledge that they have been advised that real estate agents and brokers from other real estate offices and their buyer clients who have access to the MLS may not be aware that the seller's property is for sale. Seller's property will not be included in the MLS's download to various real estate internet sites that are used by the public to search for property listings. And real estate agents, brokers, and members of the public may be unaware of the terms and conditions under which the seller is marketing the property. In addition to that, CAR has, California Association of Realtors has a form called the SEL, Seller Excluded Listing, which will be required to be filed if the seller withholds the listing from the MLS. And there will be language added to that that says the reduction in exposure of the listing may lower the number of offers made on the property and may adversely impact the overall price. So one of the concerns is make sure that the seller is fully advised that by withholding a listing, by having the agent having the pocket listing, there may be implications, adverse implications on the ability of the seller to get the highest and best offer. And when I was in Sacramento, walking to the meetings, I passed a newsstand, and on the newsstand there's this big headline of the newspaper, and it's a photograph of a woman screaming, and it
Uh-huh.
says housing bubble, 2.
2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it got my attention.
Especially, I know in Sacramento for our office that we have up there, the appreciation that we've seen, really robust appreciation here, sort of in the Central Bay area. In Sacramento, it's really taken off over the last 12 to 14 months. I mean, it's explosive growth.
And the article is actually about how difficult it is for buyers in the Sacramento area, and this is being replicated in markets all over the state. How difficult it is for them to get listings, and so I'm going to quote from this: "Lately, listings are phantom ones, disappearing almost as quickly as they go up. That suggests a voracious investor appetite for low-cost real estate, but also something more insidious. Horror stories abound of agents not listing properties until after they've tipped off an investor, a practice known as pocket listings." The article goes on to talk about, while that may not be illegal, it's raising red flags with the Department of Real Estate. There are also private listing groups, and that is raising the red flag for attorneys. A number of attorneys are taking a look at whether or not these private listing networks are engaging in potential antitrust activity.
They're colluding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the conspiracy to control a market.
I wish we could do that, though. We'd make. I'm just kidding.
Okay, I have to leave now.
Just kidding. Just kidding. So let me ask you the 30% number that you said before.
Right, Contra Costa.
Yeah, that's a humongous,
Staggering.
I mean, that's a humongous number. Is some of this? I assume that this is being scrubbed because closings are public record, and so you scrub whatever's closed against what was on the MLS, and if that address wasn't on the MLS, then you know it was never listed. Is that how that data is derived?
Yes.
Okay, so a percentage of this must be investors that are buying in bulk or through other means, or how do you? I mean,
I can't quantify how.
I can't imagine 30% of the realtors are holding.
And there are legitimate cases where a seller does not want
it on the MLS.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's why the MLS rules allow for that provision. Some of the concerns are privacy concerns. Because data is out there on the Internet, they don't want their house on the Internet.
Right.
So it's very reasonable.
Or the house is unsafe, so they don't want people walking through it, or there's a myriad of reasons.
For whatever reason, the consumer needs to have that choice.
Right.
But what's interesting is that when the market became hot, this is not a problem that we have when there's too many properties.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
On the MLS, when inventory is really high, pocket listings go away. When it comes back, all of a sudden, people seem to be very concerned about privacy.
Right.
Or not.
Right.
As you saw, the perception to the public that the media is reporting on is that it's a greedy real estate agent.
Right. Insidious, I think the article said. Good word, by the way. But not when it's associated with us. But
correct. And that erodes the public trust. And what that does is it drives consumers more and more to that decision support technology.
Right.
Why do we even need a realtor? Why don't we just go to Zillow and put a listing in Zillow? At some point in time, there is a concern that the nature of the brokerage industry is going to evolve.
Or devolve.
And that a consumer is going to find a way. We may not need a company to disintermediate from the outside. It may be the consumer who comes in and disintermediates. So, I think the focus for the California Association right now and for a lot of the local MLSs is making sure that, number one, we create an environment in which agents are fulfilling their fiduciary duty to the consumer, to their client, that the rules support that consumers are at all times advised and aware of the consequences of whatever action they choose to take. And again, that's always their choice. But more and more as the industry is shifting to new technologies and lower inventory levels, it's like trying to squeeze a water balloon. You think you've solved it here, and something pops up.
It pops up somewhere else. You're playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then once you stamp one down, something else pops up.
Yep.
Okay. Now, one other thing I'm curious about is you may not have this at your fingertips. I'm asking you questions that are off script, so I apologize, and it's not your fault if you don't know. But from our company standpoint, we're seeing what I would describe as a gentle glide up in inventory. So our listing inventory as a company is up slightly week over week for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So we aren't seeing that supply side compression that Joel was mentioning for as far as the state is concerned. Any insight as far as for your members or what you're seeing?
I actually just saw a press release that we issued that shows that inventory is down 60% March to March, 2012 to 2013. So if there is an increase in the month of April, I haven't seen those statistics yet, but we still are on a downward trend on inventory.
Yeah. What's interesting is, and we're just going to pretend like no one's listening and have a very interesting conversation for a second, but if inventory continues its glide up, because we look at it on a weekly basis, and it could just be that our agents are so amazing and listen to the radio show every Monday so they know exactly how to get more listings, and I'm sure that's what it is. That's why our listing supply could be going down, but we're getting more. Good job, agents. But what I look at is the pendings, because our pendings are, even though our listings are gliding up, our pendings are also gliding up. But if the pendings start to drop down while listings are gliding up, then the consumer is saying, hey, I'm going to slow down a little bit. And I'm hearing from my agents in the field a lot. There seems to be this public consciousness that, in our experience as a company, a year ago, February, everybody decided it was time to get back into the real estate market. And now we're starting to hear with some consistency, the consumer is saying, wow, this is feeling a little too fast. This is feeling like a little too much. And the consumer is actually backing off just a little bit. Could be anecdotal, could be seasonality, could be a lot of different things. So we're just paying attention to our listing inventory lightly gliding up, but pendings are too. But if pendings started to dip, then that could be an expression of consumer confidence.
I've heard the same anecdotal stories.
Yep.
One of the things that Joel mentioned in his presentation was even as inventory increases, he thinks that that's not going to be heavy downward pressure for home appreciation.
Yeah, there's just the demand is so high.
In fact, he thinks that, too, when you get to that point where people see that maybe sales are coming down a little bit,
they jump in.
Exactly, they jump back in again.
Tricia was doing a really excellent job at showing a supply-demand curve with her hands. I'm sorry that you guys missed that. It was awesome. All right, cool. Thank you for sharing your insights on CAR and some of those other things. You guys have an event coming up that you wanted to tell us a little bit about.
Thank you very much. It's called Global Passport to Success, and it's a new initiative that we are starting in 2013 in recognition of the tremendous amount of investment opportunities from outside investors in our area. California has a significant number of immigrants from, we have actually China, India, Mexico, and they are bringing money in from family members or from themselves and looking to purchase in our area. And what we wanted to do was expose to our members the fact that you don't have to speak a foreign language to be involved in a foreign transaction. In fact, you may have English-speaking clients, but the money is coming from out of the country. Does that impose additional hassle on the transaction? So we'll have a number of resources available to you, agents who've done different transactions. We'll also have people that are talking about cultural expectations because transactions can be heavily influenced by the different cultural norms and behaviors. So what are the do's and don'ts there? If I were a new agent looking to get into the market and looking for new opportunities, this is an event I would want to attend.
Okay, and it is on Wednesday, May 8th.
Wednesday,
From 1 to 5.
It's in Pleasanton. It's at the California Center. That used to be Car America. It's now renamed California Center.
Okay.
Great facility. It's also going to be fun. I think they're planning some surprises. I can't tell you what they are.
I've heard some rumors of some of the surprises. So, it does sound like it's going to be a very fun event, one you wouldn't want to miss.
And if nothing else, it's another opportunity to network.
And you also have a focus group coming up.
We do. We have several focus groups. I know you did one with us last year.
I did.
They're coming up in August and September, and they are a very critical part of our strategic planning.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing we do is listen to what our members say. We have a member survey that will be coming out in a couple of months, and then we want to sit down and listen to what our members are saying face-to-face. So there will be two focus groups focused on agents, two focus groups focused on brokers, one focused on YPN, Young Professional Network, and one on our affiliate members, so the title company representatives, lenders, home inspection, anyone who's in an affiliated industry. And they are usually 90 minutes long. We thank you at the end of it with a little note and $75 inside for your time, because we value your time.
Yeah.
And more important, though, it's an ability for you as a broker, as an agent, as a young professional to tell us what we should be doing better, what is it that you need to be successful in this business. And every year we make changes based on the input that we get.
Yeah, I did it last year, as you mentioned. I really enjoyed the experience, and it's always pleasant to give feedback, to idea share in an environment where you know those ideas are going to be implemented, right?
Yeah, and you did not hold back.
I didn't.
You had the good, the bad, and the ugly too.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't know you were recording it. Otherwise, I probably would have been a lot nicer.
That's how we get better.
Yeah. Good.
By listening and adjusting.
Good. And so we'll send out the email address to everyone that's on the show in case they
if you're interested
in that, we'll push that out. Tony is the one we would.
Tony Wilson is our industry relations director.
We'll make sure we do that.
They'll send you a questionnaire to make sure that we're getting a variety of voices. We don't want just the same demographic.
Right.
And again, in August and September.
Okay.
So look for information.
Tricia, thank you so much. I know how busy you are. I know how valuable your time is. And right after CAR, when you probably only had a half a day to recover on yesterday. So thanks for coming in and sharing some of your insights.
This was a pleasure.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. We'll have you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy selling.
Yeah, happy selling. One other quick commercial on another event that's coming up. Luckily, it doesn't conflict with anything that we just talked about with Tricia. You're going to learn about lead generation, listing generation, and most importantly, you'll get a sneak peek at our new technology platform. This is on May 17th from 8:30 to 1. This is our online marketing and social commerce expo. May 17th, 8:30 to 1 p.m. Pleasanton Hilton Hotel. Be there or be square. And we could charge tens of thousands of dollars for attendance at an event such as this, but this one we've decided to do for free. So tons of great information, tons of great content. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss the rollout of our new technology platform, or the teaser of our new technology platform that we will be rolling out. It is very exciting, a very, very exciting one you will not want to miss. So Tech Expo coming up. Don't miss it, don't miss it, don't miss it. All right, our next guest is me. Wow, look at that. I should do some sort of, yeah, thanks. Wow, the audience is going crazy here in the studio. I am going to be talking to you a little bit about working with millennial buyers and sellers. And I've actually got Joe, our tech, he is part of our tech team. He's the one that helps us out with all the support. And he's nearly a millennial. He missed it by like 6 months.
No, I just looked it up.
Oh, well, it depends on what source you look at.
Yeah.
So he is, how old are you, Joe?
I'm 30.
Joe is 30. Did you hear him drop his voice when I asked him how old he was? That was good.
I'm this many.
Yeah. Perfect. And Joe, you also are looking at property right now, right?
I am.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Yeah. So Joe is truly a millennial buyer right now. So I'm going to give a little context to what a millennial is, some of the things I'm observing about differences in the marketplace and how some things are shifting. And then I may just ping Joe with some questions as we're moving through it so he can give us direct feedback from a millennial point of view. Now, Joe looked it up, and he found it on the interweb, and the interweb said he was a millennial. My Keith's measuring stick is 11 to 29. Joe just barely missed it as far as I'm concerned, but we'll call him a millennial for the auspices of today's discussion. Millennials are this. They're very high-tech, very high-speed. Everything is fast. A little bit of ADD when you're working with a millennial. So, yeah, Joe, focus. Look at the microphone.
Oh, there it is.
Thanks. So you've got to be comfortable moving at a really fast pace. They're highly inclusive and very collaborative. Think idle voting. They want to be involved in the process. They want to be able to impact and influence the direction of things. Very optimistic as a group, very financially oriented as a group. Some have said they're impersonal, and this really comes from them always being on their phone, thumbing away, sending texts instead of being, quote, present in the moment, unquote.
I'm tweeting this right now.
See, look at that. You're a tweeter. Pressured and impatient. Again, speed, 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 speed. More than any other generation, the millennial generation is used to having everything at their fingertips. I remember vividly when my family got the first microwave. Right? When my family got our first, Joe's laughing at me now. My family got our first microwave, and they got it kicking and screaming because that's not how you cooked food. Food was meant to be cooked on a stove or in an oven. Kathy's nodding her head to the other extreme over here. But my dad loves coffee, and he heard this fangle-dangle machine could heat up coffee really well, and so that's why we got a microwave. Joe has never been in a home without a microwave, would be my guess.
I got a K-cup for my coffee.
Oh, right, a Keurig. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You just mix it in the one-cup batch.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a home without a microwave?
I saw an apartment once.
I saw an apartment once.
And I said, how do you live with yourself without a microwave? How do you heat up old pizzas?
See? Look at that. High tech, high speed, fast, fast, fast. One other thing on the collaborative piece as well, be prepared for a lot of social interaction as you're working with a millennial. There is a tremendous amount of collaboration. I've given a talk about generations several times over the last couple of years, and someone someday is going to send it to me. I can't wait to get it, but I want to see the Facebook post of someone posting 4 or 5 pictures of the home that they're thinking about buying for their entire social network to give them feedback on the home. I haven't found it yet, but I know that I will. Someone is going to post the photos that they took as they were walking around the open house saying, we're going to write an offer on this house. What do you think? And they're going to get direct feedback from their entire social group on the home that they're thinking about writing an offer on. Now, for some of us, that freaks us out, right? Like we used to get annoyed when the parents came into town and wanted to see the home on the weekend, and now the entire social network, all 1,200, 1,500, or 200 of their friends are going to be giving them feedback. So just whether or not you like it, it is the practical reality that the millennial generation is going to share. They love to share that they're at Starbucks. I could use a little less of that, quite frankly, in my news feed. But they also love to share their thoughts. They love to share with group what's important to them. They love to share their experiences. It's a way that they can be social in little bite-sized segments with their entire group. So just be prepared for that. Prepare for that as a practical reality. So how do you work with millennial, and how do millennials work? And let's see if Joe resonates with any of this.
All right.
First, you need a structured, supportive work environment. Now, structured should be in quotes almost, because it's not the normal structure that you think of. They don't want to show up at 9 and leave at 5, but they do want a certain amount of structure and support so that they can get their job done. It really drives them bananas when things are inefficient and the functionality of the workplace or the experience doesn't work the way they like. That resonate at all, Joe?
Yeah, that sounds accurate,
okay.
Yes.
Work content, they care a lot about the work that they do. They don't like, in general, busy work. They don't like work that doesn't have some meaning behind it. Money matters, but path matters most. More than any other generation, their money matters, but they're willing to take less money now if there's a roadmap to something bigger in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's the pathway that they're looking for more so than the dollars today. I like this one. They want to be rewarded individually and have a high demand for a path. So they aren't into tip sharing. They're not into tip pooling. They want to be judged and rewarded based off of their work that they provide.
Yeah, in college, there's all this group work, and
Yeah.
they make you focus on group work, and you know what group work makes you do? It makes you hate working in groups. and we want to work on projects on our own. We want to do things our own.
Yeah, right. That was very definitive. What's interesting is you do have to figure out how to work in group, because there are these weird things called humans wherever you go.
Yeah, I hate those things.
Those darn humans. Organizational culture. Here's what's interesting. So if you go back to the silent generation, which would be about as far, that's 3 generations ago, they molded their belief system to the culture of where they worked. So they would work at the same place for 50 years, and they would mold their belief system around the culture of their company. Then it became the worker wanted the culture to reflect their belief. Now it's gone all the way to where the culture of the office has to reflect the values and philanthropic focus that's important to the millennial, or they won't stay there very long. So it's gone, the pendulum has swung all the way to the other end, where the culture has to actually mold to the millennial as opposed to the millennial molding to the culture. Good example of how we try to approach this is our Company Giving Day. Our Company Giving Day is a philanthropic focus, but it's the same day every year for every office. But other than that, we leave it open to each microclimate to determine how they want to give back. So that's the kind of thing that would resonate with a millennial, their ability to have philanthropic endeavors, but a lot of flexibility around where they can focus on it. Last one. This one's a big one. Friends are family. To the millennial, so if my parents' generation, I am 41, my parents are 63. My parents, to them, it was family first. Family is what mattered. To me, in my generation, it was friends and family. Those were both important. Now, the millennial generation, friends are family. They don't delineate. There isn't a delineation between friends and family. There are the people that I care about the most. Some of them are blood related. Some of them are not. And there isn't this separation. So some of this is because there's less family dinners. There's less family interaction. And there's more social interaction through Facebook and the other ways that you can communicate with your friend network. There's so much communication about what's going on in each other's daily lives that the intimacy level is much higher for friends and actually reduced for family, causing a shift in that relationship.
Yeah, I agree. With all the social interaction and learning a lot more about your friends than you probably would be able to before 2007, you learn a lot about someone. You understand what they do in life and how they handle things, and you start to look up to them as if they were a family member, like a big brother or even a father figure or whatever it is, and you start trying to mimic what they do, and you start looking up to them like they're, in your house.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So this one is just a big bullet point here. 33% of millennials are more likely to buy a brand if it has a Facebook page as compared to 17% of non-millennials. If you don't have a website and if you don't have a Facebook page, to the millennial, you probably don't even, they will wonder, are you a scam? Do you really exist? How do you not have a Facebook page? How do you not have a website?
I agree to that, and because I'm a web designer here, I probably take it to an extreme, and I go, well, this website's a POS. I don't like this company,
Right.
Why is this in Flash still?
Right.
This doesn't work on my iPhone.
Right. I don't even know what he just said, but I'm not going to ask you what POS is. Next slide.
Point of sale.
Point of sale. Right. This website is a point of sale. Here is something that I think really just illustrates the issue for residential real estate. 30% of the average buyer today is 30. That means a big chunk of today's population is 30 years old. If you take the boomers, 58% of realtors are in that age group. 30% of the population that's buying right now are millennials. 58% of the population that they're trying to serve is boomer. So we have a gap. We have a big gap between the group that's trying to get in and buy and the methodology, the work process, and all those other pieces of the people who are selling them property. And so that's going to create friction. The more we can focus on trying to think like a millennial, understand what a millennial is thinking about working on, et cetera, the better able we'll be able to serve. The whole point of all this is to create effective communication. In order to communicate effectively, you got to understand what the other side is going through and accept the differences in each generation. The millennials are going to work at a faster pace, so you just got to be prepared for that. So this really is where the rub is. So you've been out looking at property.
Yeah, I have some experience with what you're just talking about. My father is a real estate agent at a different brokerage, and he is a boomer. And today he sent me a listing from, I guess, Paragon or his MLS, and they send you this email, and you click this link, and it looks just like an MLS flyer where it's just a grid and a couple photos. And me, I've been looking on Zillow and on our own company website sometimes, but not that much. And I see one listing. I'm like, okay, I know inventory is low right now, but come on, come on, old man, send me some more, So and this is his technique, and a lot of agents there's a disconnect. I've noticed that they're going to continue using what they spend a lot of money on with their MLS and use those tools. They're more accurate. You'll find something in Zillow and then you go, then my old man says this is already pending. I appreciate the accuracy, but I also want to consume way more content at a different pace than I think what he's used to.
Yeah. So that last sentence is that's the tip. That's the nexus of it. I want to consume way more content or information at a different pace than what he's used to. Especially with the millennial generation, you've got to give them a lot of data. They want data. They have grown up consuming a tremendous amount of data. So you need to make sure you're providing them with access to those data points. And they tend to be a little bit, I don't want to say not trusting, but if you only send them one listing, they're going to wonder where are the rest of them, because there's not only going to be one. They don't believe that. So they're highly analytical of data and sometimes a little cynical of data as well.
Yeah.
So Better Homes and Gardens recently did a survey of different trends in home buying and talked to millennials about this. So they talked to 1,000 18 to 35-year-olds to learn how they might be buying property different. 77% of respondents preferred an essential home, so something that they had to have, this is a must-have, be equipped with technological capabilities they've grown accustomed to, as opposed to what you would normally find in a, quote, luxury home, unquote, of their parents' generation. So one of the things I've heard is a question that's being asked is, how is cell phone reception at this home? What is the internet speed here in this neighborhood?
Or what internet can I get here?
Or what internet can I get here because I prefer this provider because I know that they provide a faster service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my life.
See? Yeah.
I don't even have cable. I just have internet.
Don't even have cable, just have internet. Yeah. Kathy can't believe it, and neither can I.
Hulu, Netflix. Brands.
No cable. Wow. Okay, that's a future show. 71% understand that home ownership is not something they deserve, rather something they must earn. That's one cool thing about the millennial that's different than my generation, the Gen X. My generation was the kind of whiny, needy, everyone gets a trophy kids. That was me. So we felt like we deserve a home. Yeah. And the millennials, their shift or the way that they've experienced life has led them to understand this concept of earning. It's not, I don't deserve it. It's I earned it. I want to earn it. I want it, and I'm going to go get it, and I'm going to take it. Also, too, nearly all of the millennials that were surveyed were willing to adjust their lifestyle. Biggest percentage, 62% were willing to eat out less. 40% were willing to work more. And then 23% were willing to move back with their parents, which I could not imagine. That would, wow. But there is this sense of I'm not entitled to it, I want it, and I'm willing to earn it.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. I personally am, a spoiled kid, and I kind of feel like, I deserve this. I'm 30 or whatever, and I went to college. I have a great job, and I think I deserve it. Unfortunately, the market doesn't really reflect that. So,
right.
So I do understand that I have to maybe save up more, and maybe do some extra work on the side if I need to earn it. I have considered moving back in with my dad. My wife would kill me if I did do that, though.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. I could not live with my parents. Wow, that would drive me crazy. It'd probably drive them more crazy, though. Let's see. 77% believe they have become increasingly knowledgeable about homeownership. And in truth, I don't understand how that is that low. The millennials that I work with, the millennials that I talk to, are all over the data sources that are available, and very often they are pinging the agent about property before the agent knows that the property is on the market. They are consuming, I believe Joe even referred it to, I want to consume content at a rate my father isn't used to.
Yeah.
They are crunching data all the time and developing an opinion based off of the data that they're getting.
Yeah. I mean, within, I don't mean to bring up another product like Zillow, but I mean, you draw a radius in a certain neighborhood, and I get email alerts anytime there's some sort of activity in that neighborhood. And I don't know if, those tools are available to agents or not, but
they are. It's called First Alert.
First Alert, yeah, absolutely. First Alert does that. But it's also, I mean, I want just that neighborhood,
right?
Just that square that I drew. Not the house next to the creek, but all the houses away from here. It's very specific. And I have 6 different neighborhoods that I have, and I get email alerts every day, and I just try to get as much as I can from it.
So listen to the languaging that's being used. Listen to the intensity that's behind it when Joe talks about it, right? The specificity that he's using around the searches that he's doing, the importance of the data. I have 6 different neighborhoods near the creek, but not across this street. He's already driven the area. He knows he doesn't like this park, so he doesn't want anything that's on that side. Very, very specific, very, a certain amount of intensity that we aren't used to around data for a lot of us. Want it to be accurate, want it to be right. Again, these are the young men and women who basically anytime, I'm sure we've all experienced this, anytime you needed to know anything, they could always Google it and get an answer immediately. Right? And that's the first generation that's ever had that. When I was a kid, when I wanted to know how to spell something, they made me go look it up in the encyclopedia.
Oh, what?
Right? Exactly. So all the data is available at a speed and at a pace that's very intense, and an accuracy rate that is also pretty intense. Now, the internet, just because you read it on the internet doesn't make it true, but their ability to consume data is pretty staggering. So be prepared for that. Understand that.
Yeah, about the knowledge about home ownership, I might have the upper hand here because I work with you guys here. But, going inside and talking to agents and stuff, I kind of know the questions to ask. Or ask how many offers you guys have so far, and I've heard in the show before here that the media doesn't necessarily reflect the market until afterwards. But I mean, I can but with the information at our hands, I can look at the market and see what's going on. And I don't think people were able to do that before. See where it's going. This
is a big one to me. I've read stuff that's different than this. Millennials having a larger comfort level with renting, a little more nomadic than other generations at the same age, a little more desire to be less connected to a particular geography, and some of the what I'll call the illiquid nature of residential real estate limiting them and their desire to want to be able to move around. And I might want to go do a year in Paris and then a year in Thailand, and then I'll come back to the States. I'm always, whenever I read reports or surveys about millennials, one of the things I'm most curious about is, do they still believe it's sort of the American dream? Do they still have that foundational element of wanting to own a home? And I've read articles saying that they won't, but all the surveys that I've looked at, it's still there and it's still relatively strong. And you see here in the survey that Better Homes and Gardens did, 75% believe owning a nice home is the best indicator of success in comparison to extravagant vacations, nice car, designer clothes. So that sense of success that's associated with home ownership is still there and still important.
Yeah, the nomadic thing. My wife's European, and everybody her whole family lived in an apartment at home. And so when she's out here, I had to force her to move into an apartment when we were living with my dad's. Now she loves it.
Right.
But when we talk about buying a home, she goes, well, renting's fine. It's very safe. If you lose your job or something, you can kind of fix, your situation a lot easier. And I don't know, maybe because I'm at the top end of the millennials. But I have this feeling within where I want to be a part of the neighborhood I grew up in, that I was raised in. So I have a lot more sentimental sentiment to this area than maybe my wife does.
Sure.
But also, if we were to move somewhere far out because it's more convenient or whatever, or accessible to the city life and BART and everything like that, we would still have those connections with all of our friends and family, with all of our gadgets.
Right.
So I understand that nomadic approach.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. It's there. It'll be interesting to see as millennials grow how that manifests itself. But so far, what I've seen is there's still that American dream of owning your home, that owning your lot of land still has an immense draw and gravity to it.
Does to me.
Yeah. Last one from this is nearly 70% believe someone is ready when they can afford to buy while also maintaining their lifestyle, and 61% said readiness factor when they've landed a secure job. So it's interesting as we look at the downturn and the recovery of the economy, one of the things I pay the most attention to is unemployment. And the ability to have that stable, steady income is a key driver. Of course, it's going to be a key driver for the millennial as well. And lifestyle is still going to be important. So this is, again, part of that intersection between quality of life, wanting to be able to do the things I want to do. What we're seeing with the millennial is they're not willing to be as house poor, quote unquote, as some of the other generations. Some of the other generations were really willing to, cut back and change lifestyle to get into a home. The millennial is still willing to do it, just not quite as draconian or as deep a cut as some of the other generations.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I want the same stuff I have now and better.
Yeah.
If I can.
Right.
I would like more than what I'm living in right now. Unfortunately, that's
unfortunately
depends on the market.
Unfortunately, you're in the big leagues of residential real estate here in Northern California, so that can be tough.
So now I'm looking at like fixer-uppers and stuff, and
right.
Fixer-uppers, a person like me, I just see crummy wallpaper and beat-up kitchens, and I go, ugh, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm living in a pretty nice apartment with brown molding right now.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah, you're totally a normal buyer right now, Joe. Yeah, we work with you every day.
Yeah.
Joe, thanks so much for sending the real life insights from someone who is
real stories
from the millennial. That's our show for today, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure and tune in next week. Go out and do good things. Thanks.